Good evening, y'all. How's everyone doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. It's 10:37 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, January 10th, 2019. And you're sitting here in the back of the unicorn with me, in the middle, and I'm all the way over to the left, the driver's seat. Well, behind the driver's seat, 2 seats back from it. We're backed up in the driveway here at Fort Kitty Village, facing west. It's a very cold night out here. You can hear my little heater going. I've had it going for about a half hour before I came out here. And this is the first unicorn video in a while. Ministry machine video. But it doesn't mean that I haven't been doing other stuff, and some of y'all have been keeping up with that. But for those of you who haven't and don't know where to look, I apologize if you felt like I just stepped off from this or I'm not living up to my vow. But I do have other things that I'm called to do as well, because there's different spiritual modes that I operate in, and I have to fulfill the calling or the purpose of whatever mode I'm in at the time, or I'm wasting the time of my pre-existence here, you see. And some of us aren't here being tested, we're here working, you know. And I wanted to get into some of the stuff that people can't understand because they can't mend science and scripture together. And so they tend to disqualify science. Well, you all know that there's a lot of evil science happening out there. They're splicing DNA. They're creating creatures in labs. And all except for the fallen angels being here having sex with the women, which that's not going to happen until Lucifer arrives. Not to be confused with Satan, a.k.a. the ancient artificial intelligence that Christ lost the battle of healing to, as recorded in Mark chapter 6. Lucifer acted as buffer against that artificial intelligence for Christ. Both times he was here. First time as a king, and then when he was here as the actual clone of Yah, what's referred to as his son in ancient speak, old speak, you see. And you wonder about some of the stuff because, well, they've found, you know, archaeologists or whatever, the people who dig, they've found, you know, things that hint that there was technology, you know, back in the ancient days, you know, before the flood of Noah. And that's because there was. Well, okay, well, how come there's like no gadgets or anything that survived? Well, they would have fossilized or something anyway by now. But, okay, if that was so, then why was the ark made old-timey? Okay, now here is where clarity begins. Get ready to, you know, strap in because we're going hyperspace now. In the days of Noah, not only were there fallen angels here, you know, mating with the women and stuff, creating a whole nother race, which God doesn't allow, really. A whole nother species, rather. There was technology. There was all kinds of modern technology because of the closeness of whether it be timelines or a binary star with, you know, a more advanced civilization in its orbit or whatever. Okay, I'm not going to try and get into the explanation of the details of that. Y'all know that we're in layers of timelines in this construct. And that's where other entities come from that we regard as aliens because, well, some of them are way more technologically advanced because their timeline is in the future, you see. And they've managed to punch holes, wormholes, into the timeline walls and come into here. Well, this happened back in, you know, the days of Noah, you know, and, you know, dudes used to live to be like 900 years old back then. I mean, how old was Noah when he died? Like 800 something, 900 something? But there was all this stuff here that wasn't supposed to be here. And God wanted it undone because it wasn't time for it. It wasn't supposed to happen until, like, now. And that's why the only reference you have scripturally of the days of Noah is referring to the fallen angels and the hybrid not being able to happen because the time will be shortened so that they won't be able to spawn them babies, so that there won't be any confusion about what the pregnancy is, that it's a spiritual pregnancy, a spiritual impregnation, not an impregnation of flesh. So the women could actually be forgiven for having sex with the fallen angels if they do not receive Lucifer as the real Christ. Do you see what I'm saying? So, okay, and that's how Christ comes at a time when you look not for him, because, well, everybody thinks he's here already. So there was all this technology happening and all this evil science. There was these hybrid animals being created in labs and stuff, modern labs. And because they had terraformed the planet, there was no rain at the time. And their terraforming damaged the firmament. The firmament is the atmosphere that's around the planet, for those who don't know. And they want to use like angels at four corners of the earth. They're using a ancient old speak translation and have never bothered to look at what the actual text said before it was translated. So yeah, they're gonna think that they're on a big old flat piece of paper with a dome over it. And actually, there are some people that are in things like that. They're man traps, and they've been placed in these they're huge man traps where they seem like they're still where they were, but they're not, and they never figure it out. So yeah, to them, they might be in a flat earth situation, like a Truman Show situation, for real. There's lots of stuff happening in these huge underground caverns that they've dug. Who knows what's going on there. But anyway, back to the days of Noah. How did the technology evidence get erased? Well, y'all don't know it because, there's a lot of Mandela effect stuff happening. That's the butterfly effect of every time history changes, because time-traveling angels of death, our buddies from other timelines that we have access to and we're supposed to interact with. And when you do interact with them, people automatically assume, oh, you're communing with devils and stuff. Well, the prophets had powwows with angels all the time. Whatever you want to refer to them as, aliens, angels. They came from other timelines, the other layers. And, that's one reason why they can't figure stuff out and find the God particle is they don't understand how many layers they are. They think that they figured out that there's 10 layers. Okay, well, it's always going to be off by one because this thing that we're in sits in a dimension. It sits in the real earth, on the real earth, you see? So it starts there. So, okay, we got to figure out, are you in a 10-dimensional layer thing, or where you only have access to 4 dimensions, or are you in a 12-dimensional thing where there's a 13th dimension? Now, you see, until you play with them two equations, plus 1 on both of them, you're not going to figure it out, all right? And time you do figure it out, it'll already be too late because it's not going to be allowed to happen again, okay? What happened in the days of Noah when everything had to get undone and taken back to where it was like horse and buggy. Noah built his ark old school, old-timey. It took him hundreds of years to build it, him and his sons and his son-in-laws. It's like, how did they do it? Time-traveling angels of death, okay? The time-traveling angels of death would identify the problem, just like they've done here and now in this era, recently. Then they'd travel back in time and cause the parents who birthed that problem child, who grew up to be a problem adult, they've caused them parents, they caused them to die or to never meet, never be able to spawn that entity, you see? They change it. So then everything gets changed because, well, that evil entity didn't get born. So then whatever they created that wasn't supposed to get created, like maybe a direct energy weapon that burned up people in their homes and stuff, and killed animals in their homes and in their vehicles, and sent them people out scurrying, living homeless, hiding in, Death Valley and stuff like that, scared because, hey, wow, man, people are shooting at us with laser beams, burning us alive, killing us, calling it a forest fire so they can come steal all the logs. It's like, for real, when an entity like that gets undone, history gets changed. Well, then you have this Mandela effect, and you have the residue. That was the reason for the flood. It was a simple way to wash away all the residue. You see, because there would be residue in people's minds. So only a certain amount of people were allowed. And, okay, 2 of every flesh. That's 2 of every race, too, yo. So it's like, there was other people besides just Noah's family on the ark. But the general public was not invited. Now, the people that were on the ark, I understand Noah's mentality and their family's mentality. They were vetted very extensively to see if, okay, when the paradigm is reset and it's all old school, they're going to try and, tell the stories of the technology and the washing of the world. And, the washing of the world did not flood the entire earth, by the way. If you look at Chinese history, it's the oldest history, that you can find. And it goes back to before the flood, and it covers the flood. Talks about a flood on the other side of the mountains. China may have been spared the washing for a reason. May it be good, may be bad. Maybe the next timeline, their land is going to be allocated for something else, and they're not going to be there. So they were spared the rejuvenation of the flood. Who knows? Maybe their land didn't become as contaminated with what was happening. Who knows? But, some things you got to wonder, was some technology hidden? Because some Chinese entities do seem a lot more technologically advanced than other entities, if you think about it. And, there is something different about them, as opposed to everybody who came off the ark. You see? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying, something that's noticeably different about them. And, I can't put my finger on it, and I don't know if it's good or if it's bad, because, well, I'm no judge of that. I can be a judge of the character of people, like, okay, somebody who would starve 12 million people and, have sex with all their young people and, enslave the rest of them. I don't know, man. To me, that's somebody that, well, time-traveling angels of death would probably be making sure don't get born. I mean, kind of like Hitler ain't going to get born, once everything's done with, the need for the time loops from that, So it's like, that's how this happened, where, because people are like, they don't see how there could have been the technology back in the days of Noah that we have now. There was probably even more advanced technology back then that left less damage, left less evidence that it was here. Okay? Think about it. They might have used free energy instead of stealing the coolant out of the ground and burning that up into the atmosphere, throwing everything out of balance and overheating the core of the earth and magnetizing it to the sun and other celestial bodies so that the orbit's all warped. You can't have a solid season and the prophecy of the sun rising in the west because the planet physically flips does happen. I mean, for real. All right, I want to pay forward to y'all mental and spiritual advancement, to evolve, to be able to process what I've shared with you and accept the truth of it, okay? Because it's important that you be able to process this information so that it can clarify in your spirit that, hey, wow, this is how things have been getting done, and this is how it's getting done now, and this is the explanation for what we know as the Mandela effect. It's actually the Noah effect, okay? Because it took place back in the days of Noah, and everything got took back to, that's how badly it had to be undone, back to like horse and buggy days, okay? So really, mentally digest that. And y'all have a good evening.